I feel like both political parties have failed us. Republicans have failed us, and Democrats have failed us. And the reason they have failed us is because both parties have their hands in the cookie jar and they can't get it out.
Hey everybody, this is Independent Americans and I am Paul Rieckhoff. I want to share with you some extra bonus content. I hope it helps you bring the five eyes and I hope it continues to move our movement forward. Here it is, my conversation that you might have missed. And if you did, be sure to check it out on our YouTube page and be sure to subscribe on Spotify and Apple Pods and everywhere you can hear my voice or see my face. Here it is. Stay vigilant.
I'm John Updike. I'm the founder and president of Open Primaries. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm really excited to be joined by three really inspirational leaders who are pioneering new political conversations, both at the national level and in their home states of Idaho and Mississippi. Paul Rieckhoff, many of you already know. Paul is an Army veteran, the founder of Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America, the host of Independent Americans podcast, and most recently, the founder of Independent Veterans of America, which is an organization dedicated to recruiting and training and supporting independent veterans to run for office. And joining Paul is Todd Achilles. Todd is a former U.S. tank commander, a state representative in Idaho, and a tech executive. And he's running right now for the U.S. Senate as an independent. And joining Todd is Ty Pinkins, who is the son of a tractor driver who moved his family from plantation to plantation in the Mississippi Delta. Ty served on active duty in the Army for more than 20 years, including 3 combat tours in Iraq, where he was awarded the Bronze Star for his actions. And like Todd, Ty is also running for the U.S. Senate as an independent. So welcome, Todd, welcome, Ty, welcome, Paul. Say hello.
What's up, everybody? Happy Super Bowl Tuesday.
That's right. This is Super Bowl week. I forgot about that.
There's a lot of other stuff going on too.
Yes,
so
that's
easy
true.
To forget, right?
The political Super Bowl is going on 24/7.
Yep, absolutely.
Hey, on behalf of all of us, I just want to say thank you to John and his whole team for organizing this and putting this together. They say hope is the oxygen of democracy. We're going to get some hope today, and John has been spreading that hope for decades. And I've told him many times I consider him a real godfather of this movement of democracy reform, and he's a true patriot that's been out in front for our country and our veterans community especially for a long time. So I'm just super grateful for you, John. I'll be on any team that you're quarterbacking any day.
Oh, thanks, Paul. I appreciate that. I want to dive into Todd and Ty's campaigns, but before we do that, Paul, something and I consider you a mentor and a close friend, and we've really gotten to know each other over the last several years. But something I've never asked you is, what do you see about independent politics that attracts you? I mean, let me just talk turkey. You founded Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. You could be a millionaire. You could be a darling if you just played by the regular Team Red and Team Blue rules. Why throw your lot into this emerging, very unorganized arena? What do you see about independent politics that attracts you?
I see the potential future of America. And I see folks who can meet this moment. What I learned working with veterans is that veterans are always country first. And for decades organizing Iraq and Afghanistan veterans, what I saw is that many of them wanted to continue to serve. But when you're in the uniform, you kind of have when you're in uniform, you have America's jersey on, right? And then you come out and they say, okay, you got to pick a red or a blue jersey. And most of them are like, whoa, I like camouflage. I like representing the whole country. And it's a real culture shift. It's kind of contrary to our values. So there wasn't a pathway for those of us that wanted to continue to serve and run for office if we didn't pick a red or blue side. So I really think that veterans are the guts of the foundation of our values in this country. I use this line a lot, John. Somebody told me once, if America was a religion, veterans would be the clergy. Veterans are the keepers of the flame. And in many ways, they're the least political people. And that's why we need them right now, because they have to be dragged into this fight because the stakes are so high. So with all the attacks that are happening on our democracy, on our freedom, on our elections, on our rights, I think that there are no silver bullets, but independent veterans might be the best shot we've got. And these gentlemen today are just inspiring examples of that. And I think what's really exciting is folks saw the potential of Dan Osborne. And we said Dan Osborne is the tip of the iceberg, but you and others remind us this iceberg's been around before. Jesse Ventura won as an independent governor in Minnesota. He's actually, sneak preview, guys, he's going to be on my podcast exclusively tomorrow. So Jesse Ventura is back, but he showed not only can we be patriots and not only can we defend our democracy, but we can win. And we can win where Democrats and Republicans can't, which is also very important right now. And I think at the end of the day, John, it's about true patriotism. It's about true leadership. It's about courage. Leadership is often about sacrifice. And these men and other men and women are sacrificing, a lot to jump into this race right now. And what they need is support. I use another line from Zelensky a lot. When Zelensky was under attack from the Russians, the Americans said, "Hey, we'll get you out." He said, "I don't need a ride, I need ammunition."
Right.
And these guys are deep in the fight. They understand how to answer this call. They're bringing hope. They're bringing people together, doing all the things that this country needs right now. America's looking for leaders, and we've got them. And we hope to run 100 veterans like Todd and Ty this fall, all across the country, not just for U.S. Senate, but all the way down to school board. And I'll leave you with one last piece, too. I was in California last week. And some of the friends on this call, I know Jeff Lipp is here and others, they were with me. I was there with Senator Mark Kelly and Gabby Giffords, who have had their own experience in the last couple of months of meeting this moment. And also with us was a guy named Travis Endicott, who had never run for office. He's an Air Force veteran from Ridgecrest, California. When we launched IBA, he heard me on Michael Smirkanich's show on July 4th. He went out into the parking lot and registered for our organization, and then registered to run for mayor. And he was elected as the independent mayor of Ridgecrest, California.
That's great.
City of 40,000 people. It's a military town. He was a first-time candidate. He's running for re-election this fall. But we can win, and we can unite people. We can meet this moment. And I think at the end of the day, if you want people who are going to stand for our Constitution, it's people who understand that the first independent veteran of America was George Washington.
Right.
He said, "Beware the parties."
The OG.
Yeah, he's the OG. And these guys and so many gals also, we're building on that legacy. And we're just grateful to have your support and everybody on this call. So I'm going to shut up and let you hear from them. But we're building a full spectrum football team here. We need wide receivers. We need offensive linemen. We need long snappers. But we think that this is a team that is putting America at the center of everything. And the country just needs to hear about them. And you being here today, supporting open primaries, I just also want to mention open primaries is key. Independent Veterans America is a strong supporter of open primaries. It's pretty fucked up that a guy like me can serve in Iraq and serve at Ground Zero on 9/11, and I can't vote in the primary elections that happen in my kid's public school,
right,
just blocks away from Ground Zero. So we're always going to support you in the fight for open primaries happening all across America. And we're just grateful for your leadership and for having the opportunity to be here. Thank you, John, and thank you, Todd, and thank you, Ty.
Thanks, Paul. So Todd and Ty, you guys have really decided to go for it. I know, Todd, you've served in government. You were a state rep. Ty, you've not. But just talk briefly about your decision to run for U.S. Senate, why you ran as an independent, like kind of what that journey has been like for each of you.
Ty, go ahead, man.
But the decision for me, it wasn't a difficult decision to run as independent, primarily because I previously ran as a Democrat. When I graduated from law school in 2020, I moved back to Mississippi, moved from DC. I'd earned my JD and my LLM at Georgetown, and I sold my house up the East Coast, and I brought myself back to Mississippi, to the Mississippi Delta, where I grew up probably the poorest area in the poorest state in the country.
Right.
And since 2020, I've been working for free in the Mississippi Delta as a lawyer. I've never charged anybody a dime, just helping people
Wow.
in low income communities. But one of the things that I saw, and I think what really spurred me to run for office initially, was I found out that there's a law that allows business owners, particularly farmers in the Delta, to hire white people from South Africa, ahead of poor black people in the Delta who have been working on farms forever. And the farmers take advantage of this, where in Mississippi, the minimum wage is the national minimum wage, $7.25 an hour. We had farmers down here that were hiring people from South Africa and paying them 14, 15, $16 an hour and forcing local workers to train those South Africans while they were paying the local workers $7.25 an hour for the same work. And then after they trained them, they were firing them. And so I went to Washington, D.C., and I testified before Congress, and I said, look, this is wrong. We need to do something about it. And neither one of my elected officials, the representative of the district, Cindy Hyde Smith, or Roger Wicker, did anything. So I came back to Mississippi and I sued all of those farmers, and we won millions of
Wow.
dollars for those workers here in Mississippi. And then I said, well, what do I do next? I said, okay, let's run against the next senator that's coming up. And that just so happened to be Roger Wicker in 2024. And I ran against him understanding that he's the senior senator in Mississippi. People don't have a big problem with him. I knew I was going to lose that race, but I knew that there was an opportunity for me to get practice, get name recognition, in preparation to run this year against one of the weakest senators in Congress, Cindy Hyde Smith. And that's where we are right now. And in between all of that, I switched from Democrat to independent because I feel like both political parties have failed us. Republicans have failed us, and Democrats have failed us. And the reason they have failed us is because both parties have their hands in the cookie jar and they can't get it out.
Yeah.
Money has them wrapped up in a straitjacket, and they can't do anything about it. And unless we get independence in Congress, particularly in the United States Senate, we can't move forward.
Yeah. Well put. What about you, Todd?
Yeah, well, I served 2 years in the Idaho House as a Democrat. Saw the good and bad of being affiliated with the party. Some of the worst things ever said about me came from Dems. It didn't come from the Republicans. And then the other thing, when I was running for election, John, my district's only 25% Democrat. I won with 60% of the vote. And the number
Wow.
one thing I heard from folks when I was knocking on doors is, "Man, Todd, you're a better Republican than that other crazy on the ballot."
Huh.
And I think that captures the missing middle in Idaho politics, which is we just want pragmatic people that are going to get back to these core values that we know and we respect, and is the Idaho way. And folks weren't doing that. And the only way to do that is as an independent. I mean, when we closed the primaries, and John, you know this well, when we closed the primaries in Idaho in 2012, 70% of Idahoans were unaffiliated with the party. 70%, by far the highest in the country. Now that's down to about 30% because people have had to take sides, but that core value is still there. And as the parties have just gone deeper into the corner, you just hear more and more Idahoans say, "Come on, man, where's the common sense? Let's govern to where the state is." And that's what's powering my campaign and why I'm in this race.
Yeah, I find that more and more people are just so distressed at how dogmatic, rigid, out of touch both parties have become with ordinary people. One of the things that independents, this goes back years, one of the things they face when they run for office is this charge that you're a spoiler. And I was really excited to talk to the two of you because I went through your websites. I spent hours on your websites. And one of the things you guys are both doing is you're actually kind of flipping that on its head. But I want to first ask you how you think and how you respond to the whole notion of independence as spoilers.
Todd, go ahead. You can take this.
I was just going to say, I mean, for John, it's an easy one for me. There's twice as many unaffiliated voters, independent voters in Idaho as there are Dems. I'm clearly not the spoiler, right? I mean, you just look at the numbers. It's pretty straightforward.
Well, I think the whole idea of a spoiler is a term, a phrase, just an idea that has been planted by both political parties, both of the major parties, because they're terrified of independent candidates. Since Ross Perot garnered 20% of the vote when he was running against Bill Clinton, since then, Democrats and Republicans have said that anybody who runs as an independent is a spoiler in an effort to scare people not to get on the ballot. One, two, to confuse voters. And nowhere in the country, I think, is that more applicable than the state of Mississippi. Mississippi is nearly 40% African American.
Right.
It's the blackest state in this country. And one of the other things about Mississippi is that black people down here and white people have been fighting for civil rights since forever.
Right.
And one of the things that they cherish is the fight that they put forth with regard to voting and getting access to the ballot. So when a candidate steps up and says, I'm an independent, their antennas come up and they think, spoiler, you're going to split the vote. You're just going to make it easy for that Republican to win. But here's what I tell them. I said, I want to understand, what vote are you telling me that I'm going to split? Because history doesn't say that. And when I start to give them the history behind voting in Mississippi, then they kind of understand it. And I ask them, I was like, when's the last time a person running as a Democrat won a United States Senate seat in the state of Mississippi? And they can't answer it. And I say 1982. That was 44 years ago. Since 1982, there have been 15 United States Senate races in the state of Mississippi. The Republican candidate has won 15, and I'll give you one guess as to how many the Democratic candidate has won. 0. So if you have a football team that you're betting on for 15 straight seasons, and that football team loses every season 15 straight times, are you going to bet your money on that team to win the 16th time? There's a 99% chance that the Democratic candidate is going to lose in 2026. There's a 99% chance. And I tell them this. And they said, well, that makes sense. And then I said, what are our other options? And I say, right here, you have an independent candidate staring you in the face right now. And people get it once you tell them that and you explain it to them straightforward, especially the black community, because they're frustrated. And
John, can I say something about that,
yeah.
too, John? I mean, number one, you and I just wrote an op-ed about this, so it's linked in the, if folks haven't heard this. And I think it's important to give folks examples of winners, right? We mentioned Ross Perot in the piece, but there are other folks that Jesse Ventura is a great example of someone who disrupted the status quo, who was able to win. But more recently, and folks I've had on my show, Independent Americans, recently in the last couple of months, Yemi Mobolade is an independent mayor of Colorado Springs, Colorado. Tim Kelly is the independent mayor of Chattanooga, Tennessee. I mentioned to you Travis Endicott. Independents are winning, right? And showing that they're not just spoilers, they're appealing to what is now the plurality. We are 45% plus of all voters in America. Democrats and Republicans are around 27%. And as you and I often reference, I think roughly 60% of young people are independent and unaffiliated. So the future is independent. Often we don't have an option. Often those folks can't get on the ballot. But to say they're spoilers is ridiculously dismissive and insulting, and also just not factually based. So I encourage folks to look at those examples specifically. Yemi and Tim, very different parts of the country, very different cities, but they've won, and they both won re-election now too. And I think just a tip of what is much more to come.
I think it's undemocratic. It runs contrary to our Constitution and people's right to exercise the vote, one, and people's right to representation. You can't say that 45% of the country is represented as independents and 27% is each Democrat and Republican, and say that you don't want to allow independents an opportunity to get access to get on the ballot so that people can have a third choice. And when I frame it like that for people, then they start thinking Republicans and Democrats. In fact, just yesterday, a lady asked me, she said, I'm a longtime Republican, and I've been trying for a year to change my registration to independent. And I said, well, in Mississippi, you don't have to change anything. If you want to be an independent, just be an independent and go to the polls and vote your choice, because we don't register Democrat, Republican, or independent. It's whatever you want to be. And she started to clap. She was so excited.
Yeah, and Mississippi has such a long history of independent political civil rights forces. Fannie Lou Hamer, Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party. Like, it's not been the Democratic Party that's led the civil rights conversation. In some ways, they were they had to get reformed. And boy, when I read your website, Ty, the thing that it made me think about was this conversation, which seems like it's at its very beginnings, but it's present in Nebraska with Dan Osborne, is that maybe the Democrats are the spoilers. Maybe they're so committed to losing year in, year out, year in, that they don't even think about, well, maybe we should partner with the independents. Maybe that's a way forward for us. But hopefully you guys can crack that door open a little bit.
Well, that's why I'm running a very, very aggressive campaign in Mississippi with regard to pointing out the shortcomings of the Mississippi Democratic Party. Not being mean to anybody, but giving people factual data, just like I mentioned to you earlier with regard to Democrats not winning a United States Senate seat in 44 years. Democrats haven't won a gubernatorial seat in Mississippi in over 20 years.
Right.
We don't hold any of the highest state offices in the state. And I asked people that, and I said, did you know that? And they're like, no, we did not know that. And I said, so why take your vote, that one token you get every 4 years, every 2 years, every 6 years, and deposit it into a system, the Democratic Party, knowing that you're going to lose your money? That doesn't make sense at all.
Hey, and if Indiana University, the losingest football program in the history of the world, if they can do it and they can go become national champions, well, then, other people can change course.
And it's called Indiana. I mean, it's Indy, right? This
exactly.
is a harbinger. This is what's coming, okay? That's our football team, people.
Right. The independents need to be more like Indiana. A question. So obviously right now there is I don't know what the word is, not debate, but there is a fight about military deployment internationally and domestically between the executive and Congress. Paul, you've talked a lot about this on your podcast. And I wanted to ask you how you, as veterans, are thinking about this kind of executive control of war powers. And has your thoughts on this impacted why your independence?
Yeah. Hey, Ty, you want to go ahead and then I'll jump on that.
Absolutely. I think the executive control of the military and their overreach specifically is an outgrowth of both political parties failing us. Both political, and I'm a history guy, and Paul knows this. I love history. In parallel to that question that I asked earlier, I tell people that both political parties, Republicans and Democrats, have at some point had a supermajority in our United States Senate and control all three branches of our government, the House, the Senate, and the executive branch. Those are not branches, but they control all three of those entities on 6 different occasions since 1979. And on 2 occasions, the Democrats had a supermajority while they controlled the House and the Senate. If that's the case, why are we still dealing with stuff like executive office overreach when Congress makes the rules? They have both failed us, and that's why we are in the situation that we're in right now, where I have to talk to people about the war between Russia and Ukraine and sending our troops overseas. And I tell them, either you vote the right people in office or you are going to pay with the blood of our sons and our daughters when these people send our kids off to war.
Just building on Ty's point, I'm running against the guy who's chair of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, right? And so he's a peer to the Secretary of State when it comes to setting foreign policy.
Right.
And what has he said on Venezuela? Nothing. What he said on Greenland? He completely gone to ground on Greenland. 5 years ago, he was banging the drum on how important NATO is, and he hasn't said anything yet. Completely lost his spine about the responsibilities here. And I mean, like Ty, listen, in October of '94, Saddam threatened to invade Kuwait again, and my tank battalion was at the top of the alert cycle. And I stood in front of my 86 men on a Saturday morning when we were getting ready to deploy. The wives were there, the kids were there, the girlfriends were there. When you're in that situation, that never leaves you. I remember like that was this morning. And to have somebody representing Idaho, there's 5,000 Idahoans on active duty, to have somebody representing Idaho who voted for Hegseth, clearly the least qualified Secretary of Defense in the history of the position, And to take that political vote, and it only took one goddamn Republican to sink Hegseth, and it could have been Risch, and he chose to do the politically expedient thing rather than the vote that protected Idahoans on active duty. That kind of shit has to end, right? You want to know why I'm in the race? That's one of the reasons why.
But Todd, you mentioned something else that's crucial to our democracy also, is we have these people in office that when they have an opportunity to uphold their end of the bargain with regard to being a co-equal branch of government, they'll go and allow a president, whether their president or is Democrat or Republican, allow that president to nominate people who are severely unqualified to do these jobs. Secretary of Education, Secretary of Homeland Security, Department of Health and Human Services. Nominate these people, sit them in front of 100 senators, and those senators have an opportunity to say, I agree with you or I don't agree with you. And they do it every time. We have Republicans and Democrats who have voted to confirm unqualified people to lead these agencies for the American people. They don't have the guts to say, well, no, not this time. Go bring somebody else. Go show me somebody else's resume. And I think that's one of the big issues with regard to not having independence in Congress to say, stop, pause. If you want to be Secretary of Education and your resume says that you worked in the WWE, in the World Wrestling Federation, where's your background on education? And that's what gets me really, really pissed off on the campaign trail when
sorry, Ted, that's their Article 1 responsibility, right? That's your constitutional duty.
Yeah. I think I want to add something else too, John. If one of these guys gets elected, they're instantly the most powerful member of the Senate.
Right.
Like we talk about having an independent fulcrum. We get one independent in the Senate who's a veteran. If you think about the power that Manchin's had in the past or Sinema's had in the past, or even someone like Angus King has now, it's going to be really small in comparison to what these guys can have, not just on confirming folks for jobs like the Secretary of Defense, but the War Powers Act, on ICE, on all these other elements where we understand national security and we're uniquely trusted, right? And as an independent, they will be understood to put the country above any party, against any allegiances to their party, and especially when you come down to something like, one vote difference on Hegseth. If Dan Osborne had beat Deb Fischer, he would have been that one vote difference, right? And think about how different the history would have been. They're really important bulwarks against extremism, especially when it comes to adventurism, regime change, and just blowing past the Constitution, which they've been doing especially on national security. And they may try again if they invoke the Insurrection Act. And imagine how different it'll be if we have a Todd Achilles, a Ty Pinkins. Also want to shout out Dan Osborne, who's running in Nebraska, Brian Bangs running in South Dakota. We may likely have someone in Montana
Morgan DeWicki in Massachusetts.
Morgan DeWicki in Massachusetts, but and we'll have many more at the governor level too, where as a governor, you're also the commander-in-chief of the National Guard.
Right.
And we've seen how important that will be. Look at someone like Tim Walz, who's now in direct conflict with Trump. Having a veteran and an independent veteran is something this country is so hungry for, but they will instantly be the most powerful member of the Senate.
And to caveat off what Paul just said, not only as an independence will we carry a lot of weight in the United States Senate. Right now, the Senate is split 53 to 47. 53 Republicans, 45 Democrats, with 2 independents caucusing with those Democrats, making 47. And one of the things that I've said, and I think Todd has agreed to, and the other 2 veterans that are running, is saying that when we win, because I think we'll win, that we won't caucus with either party, specifically because we want to force them to come to that small group of independents in order to get a majority.
Done, right.
But that's not free. That's not free. If you want us to say we'll allow you Democratic caucus to have a majority or you Republican caucus to have a majority, here's a couple of things that we want. We need to repeal Citizens United, 1. 2, we need to make sure that we pass a law that says Congress people cannot buy, sell, or trade stock. We need to make Election Day a holiday. Simple stuff like that. I mean, just common sense stuff like that that won't get done unless we have a group of independents in Washington, D.C. And I can't wait, because I think now, this year, people say, well, there's going to be a blue wave. They're going to be this wave or that wave. I think that there's a silent independent movement happening in this country where a lot of people are pissed the hell off with both parties. The Democratic Party's numbers in the tank. The Republican Party's numbers in the tank, and Donald Trump is making it even worse. And I think that 45% in that Gallup poll that recently came out, it means something. And I think people are moving to the middle and going to have another
John, I
option.
just want to emphasize too, you
Yeah.
and I especially see this at the local level. School boards are not supposed to be partisan.
Right.
And school boards have become increasingly partisan and are kind of the front lines in the fight to protect and defend our democracy. And we've got a lot of veterans who want to start at school board. They want to
smart.
start locally, and they're running. We've had some successes in Connecticut and South Dakota and other places all over the country. The school board is a great way for people to start in politics. And that's a part of this, as well as really creating a true farm team, but also understanding all politics is local. And right now, some of the most important fights on things like book banning are happening at school boards.
I'll build on. Sorry, John. I wanted to build on Ty's, because that idea of the fulcrum. I mean, we got a text chat going between Dan, Brian, Ty, and me, and we're talking about this a lot. When I talk with Idaho voters in my town halls, and I've hit all 44 counties, over 80 town halls, been all over the state. Everybody loves the idea of the fulcrum, of denying a majority to either party. And it doesn't matter if you're wearing a red hat, a trucker's hat, a hard hat, or a cowboy hat in my town hall. Everybody's on the same page that this is what we need to do. We need to break the control of Congress that the two parties have, and just get it working again. And I'm with Ty. I mean, priority number one is we've got to break all of the disincentives that drive the corruption, the money in the politics, the term limits, all that other stuff. Then once we've got the institution working again, then I think we can start tackling a lot of the kitchen table issues, the economic issues, the rigged economy, and everything else that's just holding it back. We're in a state like Idaho, 60% of people don't earn a livable wage, right? We got to tackle that, but we've got to get Congress working again, and the independents can pull this off.
That's great. One last question, then I want to open it up. And just a reminder, if you have a question, just in the chat, type your name and state, and then a one-sentence description of what you want to ask. And then I'll call on you and you can ask your question. Final question for me though, and this is to Paul, but Todd and Ty, please weigh in. Paul, you're on cable news every week, CNN, MSNBC, Fox. And as we all know, one of the big barriers to the growth of the independent movement is how the media and the pollsters refuse to even admit that 45% of the country is independent. They call us Democrat leaners and Republican leaners and fence sitters. And Paul, are you seeing any cracking of that? Are there more openings to be an independent and get respect for that? Or what's the media environment around independence? Is that changing at all?
It is changing. And I think it's a reflection of most basically what people want. They are sick of two options in cable news in the same way they're sick of them on their ballots. So you see more and more people, you've got the diehards at MSNBC and at Fox, but they are more and more so, they are diehards. They are partisans. And there's a lot of folks that are up for grabs and want to see independent voices. I'm grateful that they book me, but when they do, I say, look, I'm not going to be the stand-in for the Republican. I'm not going to be the stand-in for the Democrat. And it kind of fucks them up because they try their talking points on me. Like I got into this with a woman named Tiffany last week on News Nation. She said, well, the Democrats are doing it. I said, I'm not a Democrat. That trick doesn't work on me, right? Like it doesn't work on me, okay? So take that shit to your normal sparring match. But I also think you see the growth of independent media, which is very key. My show is a part of that. We're trying to provide an alternative for people, and we do have a Meet the Independent Candidate series. A lot of these candidates, and these guys included, aren't getting media attention. Sometimes my show is the first time they've ever been on a national show, and I want to continue to do that, especially folks down ballot. But you got to support independent media because we don't have the big corporate sponsors. We don't have the big distribution. But you also see folks falling to Joe Rogan and others because they're politically homeless, but there's also a spirit of independence around Howard Stern, right? Even you could argue Rush Limbaugh and others. There's a lot of folks that are up for grabs, and most of all, they're looking for voices they can trust. Authenticity, right? Authenticity is key, and they're sick of the bullshit in the media in the same way they are in politics. So if you like independent media, support it. And I will end with this too. No matter what you think about Don Lemon, his arrest this week is very significant because he is independent media. He does not have, corporate lawyers And that's a message across the bow that they want to shut down podcasters, anybody with a Substack, anybody with a voice. So independent media, especially right now, is a really important and also under-resourced part of our larger independent landscape that we need to support.
Yeah. And to kind of caveat off of what Paul just said, that's one of our biggest hurdles, getting access to fair representation in the media. There have been journalists who have called and interviewed us, all of us, independent veterans, and written an entire story not mentioning either one of our campaigns. It is absolutely fascinating. Interviewed us for a story called, and this is a large, one of the main media organizations. What is it, ABC or NBC? Literally called, spent an hour on the phone asking questions about you're a veteran, you're running as an independent. Call Todd, call Brian, call Dan, call Morgan. Did all of that, wrote the story, did not mention one word that Todd Achilles was running for U.S. Senate as an independent. Did not even mention Todd Achilles' name. So there's a roadblock there. Yeah. MSNBC, same thing. Mentioned one of my opponents who literally voted, who's running as a Democrat and literally voted the Republican ticket in 2024. A Democrat in Mississippi, a black guy that voted the Republican ticket in 2024 and is running as a Democrat in 2026. MSNBC highlighted this person on their platform, and I emailed them or called them and asked them, "Hey, look, I'm running in the same race. Can y'all please give me some love also?" Crickets.
Yeah,
it's a fascinating thing to watch happen.
It's a great learning experience. Well, I want to build on that. I want to open it up to questions. We have one from Nakia Davida in Nevada about some of these other hurdles. Go ahead, Nakia. Am I pronouncing your name right?
Yes, Nakia, thank you. Yeah, just as the chat said, my concern was the access to fundraising and funds. It costs a lot of money to run for a campaign, but obviously the other two parties are very well funded. So how do we compete in that arena to get noticed above the fray to, break out with these different media sources? What have people done successfully in that vein?
I mean, I'll just speak from my side, Nikia. I mean, it is hard. This is a big part of it. We've got lots of Republican donors and Dem donors and independent donors behind our campaign. I think the best way to beat the money. My opponent's going to have effectively unlimited funds, but the best way to beat that is with an army of volunteers. And we're going to win the ground game. We're going to knock on more doors than what these guys do. We're gonna do everything we can to raise the money, but we're gonna just run a lean and mean campaign. But the face-to-face conversations are how we're gonna beat this guy.
Well, I think one of the ways that I've approached the money issues, and I've seen it drastically. I ran in 2024, and I raised over $1 million in that campaign with a really weak Democratic Party here in Mississippi. Of course, switching to independent, a lot of those donors kind of went quiet. I do have an expansive donor list, but a lot of them went quiet. But I also learned on the campaign trail that the fact that I'm not raising a whole bunch of money like my Republican counterpart or my Democratic counterpart, that's a great talking point. It's an excellent talking point, because I asked people, I asked them, what do you think is the biggest problem with our politics? And probably 3 out of 4 times people will say money. They'll say Citizens United. And then I ask them, okay, well, this guy is already taking money from these huge corporations. Cindy Hyde-Smith, we know what she's doing, trading stocks in office. I'm the one candidate that's not taking money from these people. So it's a powerful talking point in a town hall setting when you can tell people, you know what, I don't care that I didn't raise money. I got enough money to put some gas in my car and get across this state, and I won't stop until it's over.
Yeah, John, I want to just touch on that too. A couple things. Number one, put your money where your mouth is, folks. Donate to these guys right now, because they do need it, even if it's just $5, if it's $1, okay? We do not have the campaign and donor infrastructure that exists on the left, right? If you're a Democrat, for the most part, you get on Act Blue and you're immediately engaged into this entire ecosystem. They all start sharing lists. We are working on building that infrastructure, but in the meantime, some folks don't know this. Emily's list, the word Emily stands for early money is like yeast. It makes the dough rise. These guys need money, okay? And they do need you to tell 5 friends. They might not ask for it outright. I'm going to ask on their behalf. That's one part of it, okay? And then we do have independent organizations. IBA's got our C4. We've got a sister PAC that also we need to raise money for so that we can try to compete with these folks. We're going to fight creatively. We're going to be asymmetrical. We've got, the independents on our side, but we still are badly outgunned. And one of the things that we're focused on as a community is our billionaires. Like, we've got to get the billionaire class to understand that this is a worthwhile investment. You've got George Soros, you've got the Koch brothers. We don't have them. And there's a few folks that I think are dissatisfied with the Democrats and Republicans. Some of them have wasted a lot of money on things like no labels and others, and they're looking for investment. So I will tell you, the best place for you to invest is in leaders. And we've got leaders. It's not a structure. It's not some amorphous thing. It's real people who are stepping into the arena. And I think we've really got to start to show that that is a viable infrastructure. And ultimately, we got to get more folks to donate. So it's one of the most patriotic things we can do, I think, is have the back of these guys and others like them, because the thing I get often is, I'd really like to run, but I don't want to run naked. I know the parties are going to come after me. I know that I don't have big money. And we're also, I think, not just a billionaire away, but I think we're a couple of very high-profile candidates away. If someone, I always say, The Rock or Matthew McConaughey or someone like that, don't dismiss it, because someone like that can bring immediate star power that also brings fundraising power that can lift the entire ecosystem. And I think we're excitingly close to being at that breakthrough point.
Yep. That's very well put. I want to go to, let me get my list here. Hold on one second. I'm having computer problems here. Elena from Maryland has a wonderfully philosophical question about what is a Democrat and what is a Republican. So Elena, take it away. I really want to hear this question. You still there, Elena? You got to take yourself off mute.
Yay. Okay. I love you guys so much. Okay. I was at the Kennedy School about 25 years ago, and the only people I would form in a group with were the guys that were veterans from multiple different military, the Army, the Marines, that special, what is it? Special offense. I don't know, whatever that team of people is. They were the most kind, the most reliable, the most fun, to be honest with you, to work together as a team, because they pulled their own weight. I used to tend to be the one that got stuck with everything. I just love military people altogether, whether you're retired or not. I just have so much respect. So thank you all for your service. And I am not surprised that you are going to be the leaders in this. Now, John is a major leader in the independent movement. I mean, really, but you guys, I think, are going to make it happen. I did work with No Labels a couple years ago to bring about that independent. Actually, we were trying to have an independent party on all 50 states. And I was living in Rhode Island at the time. I don't know, John, if you remember when I was trying to,
Yep.
And it was the Democrats that got vicious. They were attacking the leadership in No Labels. They were attacking the different candidates we were trying to get to run. And it was horrible. It was horrible. And really, the person that I wanted to be president was, now I'm going to forget his name. Oh my gosh. He's a retired Army. No, he's a retired Admiral. Admiral
McRaven?
Yes. Thank you.
Bill McRaven's usually the name that goes out there. He was also a guest on my show recently, and I asked him if he would run for president. But sorry, I don't want to interrupt you, but McRaven is often on people's vision board for viable presidential candidates.
Right. Well, here's the thing. I came from.
But Elena, I don't want to cut you off, but we have a short amount of time. So ask your question, because it's a great question.
Okay, the question that I originally had was, what is a everybody comes and says, oh, what's an independent? You're just leaning Democrat or Republican. And it gets me so upset when they say that. I'm not leaning. I do not want to be a Democrat. I don't want to be a Republican. But meanwhile, why don't we start asking, what in the world is a Democrat and what in the world is a Republican?
Mm-hmm.
Why don't we, because can any of you guys?
I'll tell you what it is. It's a dinosaur. It's the pack. I'll let these guys expand, but I do think it's the past. I mean, it's a broken framework that the country is now, when they have an alternative, they choose it. It was the world of, only Coke and Pepsi. And now there's a lot more options out there, and people want them. But I'll let these guys take it from there. I think it's a great question.
A Democrat and Republicans in this is a stale placeholder that the two parties have created for people to feel safe when they want to argue against each other. It's a tool and a resource that they use every election cycle to tell the side with the red shirt on that the blue side hates you and you need to fight them. And the side with the blue shirt on, the red side hates you and you need to argue with them. Don't focus on me as an elected official. Don't focus on the fact that I didn't do anything that you elected me to do over the last 4 years. Don't focus on that. Focus on the other side. Focus on them. It's almost like the black ants and the red ants. Y'all fight each other. And once you finish fighting each other, vote for me again.
Right.
That's all that red and blue Democratic and Republican thing is. And having that, and I think it's going to take independents like Todd and myself and Brian and Dan and Morgan to get out and have these difficult, straightforward, cold water in your face conversations with voters on both sides of the aisle. Some people disagree with me. Some people curse me out. But it's okay. I give them a hug and I move on to the next person.
I bet you do. I bet you do give him a hug.
I do. Honestly, Elena, I literally give people hugs, and I said, you know what? I
That's
appreciate
lovely.
your input. Thank you so much for participating in the process. Can I give you a hug? And I give you
Okay,
a hug,
I'm
and I
going to
move on.
donate to you. I saw your thing over there. You're getting
Thank
my
you so
money.
much.
Go
I
ahead.
appreciate it.
Jesse Ventura used to call them the gangs. He used to call them the Democrats and the Republicans. The Republicans. You're gonna hear he's gonna be on my show tomorrow. You're gonna hear him bring that one back. A new
That's
generation hasn't heard that one in a while, but he's not
You know,
wrong.
Elena, just to build on yours, when I served as a Dem in the Idaho House, I got recruited all the time to flip sides. And I would talk with the speaker and the rest. I'm like, guys, come on. I'm a better Republican than half the people in your caucus. And it just kind of blew their mind. And, what the hell, what is an Idaho Republican then?
Right.
So
Right.
I hear you. It's great.
And I think it's really important that we share the message. You can leave the Democrats and Republicans, and you don't have to join the other side.
Right.
This is really, really important. I brought this up on my show, and I've challenged people like Representative Don Bacon. There's Representative Jared Golden in Maine. We have to let them know that if they do leave, that they will be welcome. They will get a giant hug, not just from Ty, but from everybody.
That's
And
a great
leaving the
point.
Democrats doesn't
John?
mean you have to be a Republican or vice versa.
Is there a way that there could be a campaign about, you can join the independents, and then have we are a movement.
Yes. No,
Okay.
and in
John and I have
fact,
been talking about this a lot. Yeah.
we're going to be
Oh,
launching
yes.
this. We're going to be launching this in March. It's a campaign to coincide with the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. We're launching our own Declaration of Independence. My colleague Jeremy Gruber came up with this idea. It's brilliant. We're going to put out a set of values and complaints that independent voters have about how we have organized politics, and hopefully get millions of people to sign up and join and declare their independence.
I'll work
keep
here
an eye
for
out
you
for that.
in Maryland now.
Great.
Love it.
I want to go to Matt Coasters and also John German. This is unusual, but the two of them have a similar question about voting systems. So, John, let me go to you first, then Matt. Keep your questions short, and then I want you guys to weigh in on this. You got to take yourself off mute. You still there, John? This is John German from New York.
Can you hear?
Yep.
Can you
okay.
hear? Thank you. I wish I had video. Oh, yes. My question was: has any jurisdiction in the United States tried a system of proportional representation like Europe, where they have to form coalitions in order to govern? Because winner take all just doesn't adequately represent us. Thank you.
All right. Before you guys answer, I want to go to Matt in Ohio to kind of add to that question. Go ahead, Matt.
Sure. Hey, thanks, John. My question is, independents are swimming upstream under our current political rules because of how plurality voting favors the two-party system. So my question is, what does successful messaging and strategy look like for a successful independent campaign? And how does electoral reform fit into the messaging of a successful independent campaign?
Thanks, Matt. Any thoughts on that, Ty, Todd, Paul?
I'll tackle it. The first question with regard to coalition building, I think that's why these first of all, these four veterans that are running as independents against Republicans, they are so important right now. You take the executive branch, it's bought and paid for. They're sold. The House of Representatives is gerrymandered all over the country. You can wake up in the morning and blink, and the member of the House of Representatives is going to get reelected. That's gone. The United States Senate cannot be gerrymandered. 100 senators from 50 states, two from each state, can't be gerrymandered. So with regard to building coalitions to legislate, if Todd, Dan, Brian, myself, and Morgan get elected as independents, we get to deny the Democratic Party and the Republican Party a majority in the United States Senate. Now they have to come to us to talk, to work together, to say, what do you think about this legislation? Or we have to put forth legislation to force them to say, you know what, I'm going to consider that because these 6 independents have a whole bunch of power. And so when you talk about coalition building, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to set the table for that.
All right.
I'll talk to the messaging if I can. John's been really helpful in the creation of Independent Veterans of America. And we've been overt about this. Independents are a tough thing to explain sometimes. And often people refer to their latest example. They might say, you know, RFK Jr., they might say Andrew Yang, they might say Jesse Ventura, but they understand veterans. They understand that veterans are country over party. They understand that veterans want to continue to serve. They understand that veterans stand for values in the Constitution. And we think that the best way to define what independence mean for the future is to start with veterans. Now, there are concentric circles around that, firefighters, teachers, you know, first responders, but veterans are a really important way to make that case. And you've seen that with more recent examples like McRaven, even with General Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. We've been honored to have Admiral Mullen on our board of advisors, former chairman. We've also got Ken Burns, the great historian and storyteller, Sebastian Younger, the great author, to help us really tell the story. But we think that this 100 veterans is really going to help tell that story. I'll also share with you, over 50% of veterans are independent. So when we talk about community building and constituencies, there are about 20 million veterans in America. We are a built-in voting bloc. And if you can get them by representing them, it's a really important group of voters to target. And they are often up for grabs. And they respond to other veterans. They volunteer for other veterans, and they vote with other veterans, especially now when I think all political backgrounds understand our democracy is under attack. And we need patriots to stand up. And these guys are the kind that we need.
You know, the story that Idahoans love when I'm on the road is, you know, why do we need this? You know, I was tank commander, 4 guys in my tank crew. My gunner was from Louisiana, my loader was from Baltimore, and my driver was from South Carolina, right? Anyone that's been on active duty, you know, it's just a bunch of random guys thrown together. And if you don't work together, you're dead, right? You can't get much more explicit and direct than that. And that's the philosophy that Idahoans just, they want to see. They're just tired of us. They're tired of people pointing the finger at each other. And it's a state that went, you know, 2/3 for Trump because a lot of folks are struggling. And they want to see this system working again. This isn't the bargain. This isn't what they signed up for. Oh, did we lose John?
We might have lost John.
All right, Paul, you take over, man.
I blame the DNC and RNC have found out where we are. Tulsi Gabbard, I think I see somewhere up here. They're trying to shut us down. We can't let them do that. Is anybody else from the Open Primaries team who's got the mic here want to give us guidance for John? I don't know if I can recognize people. I know we're coming up on the hour, and as a military guy, I want to try to get to that.
So what happened to Tulsi? What did happen to
question.
Tulsi Gabbard?
So this is Gray Henderson from Idaho. Seems to me that voter turnout is going to be key to an independent running. If you're on the far right or the far left, you're pretty much decided. But it's going to be the independents in the independents in the center who don't necessarily turn out for elections. So my question is, what's the best way to make sure that we get a good turnout? I think that'll work for independents across the board.
Hey, and guys, I'm back. My computer just died. I don't know what happened, but I'm back on my phone.
We blame the Democrats and the Republicans, man.
There you go. But was that Gray from Idaho who just asked that question?
Can I answer Gray's question with a data point? So yesterday was the special election in Texas, and I mentioned this on my show. The determining factor in that special election was really independence. Independents turned out, and it wasn't the Republicans or the Democrats. It was which way the independents went, and they went strongly against the Republican candidate and for the Democrat, who happened to be an Air Force veteran. I think underscoring our point. But we see this time and time again that independents are the difference in special elections, in close elections, and more so by the day. I'll let John and others build on that. But even yesterday, we saw that we're not just the future, we are the determining factor in elections right now. And we need to encourage people to understand that they can be the difference.
And so my question is really, how do you turn those people out during the election? How do you get them to vote?
One more thing I will tell you. I think that these guys have done a good job of it, but you've also got to speak directly to them, right? Mm-hmm. And part of that is voter data, which is part of what IBA is trying to send these guys and creating networks, but also focusing on things like open primaries. I think almost all of our candidates support open primaries, speaking to independents, saying, I'm here to give you an equal vote. Right? Vote for me, and I will ensure that I'll take that fight forward, which is, there's a battleground right now in Maryland and so many other places. But I think that's really important that they actually speak to them and they look like them, right? Nothing about us without us. The best way to speak to independents is be an independent, and we've got them. But I'll throw it to these guys from there.
Well, I think one of the things we have to also take into consideration and understand is that a lot of those people are voting. A lot of independents do vote. The issue is that they rarely have an independent on the ballot to choose from. It's usually they have to decide whether they're going to vote for the Republican candidate or the Democratic candidate, when all along they want a third option. But the two parties have blocked independents out. So the way that we actually get them to actually vote for that third candidate is to break through this media wall, to make sure that voters know that they have a third option coming up, and they're just not surprised when they go into the polls and they see, oh, who is this person that I've never heard of over the last 10 and a half months? But if we can break through that media wall, which is Todd and Brian and Dan and Morgan, we're talking about how to do that now. We can break through that media wall. I think that 45% in that Gallup poll that came out last week, I think that 45% converges on those independent candidates. And the reason we can't break through that wall is because both political parties know what's going to happen.
That's well put.
And if I can, John, ballot access has got to be central to everything. We hear from all of our candidates that ballot access is the biggest problem. And that's why we need more of a nationwide infrastructure. It's part of what we're building on, is trying to get all of the independent veterans of the country focused on supporting vets to get on the ballot so that they can be that option. But John has written and talked extensively about how hard it is uniquely for independents. And a lot of the conversations I've had on my show with these guys and others underscore how the deck is stacked against us to just get on the ballot.
Yep.
We'll get there. A little factoid. Just yesterday, the legislature of Arizona introduced a bill that would bar the use of the word independent in because there is a new political in Arizona called the Arizona Independent Party.
Right.
And they have included a candidate running for governor who's going to spend $5 million. He's the former quarterback of ASU, and he's going to spend $5 million of his own money. And so the legislature, Democrats and Republicans, are like, we got to keep these independents marginalized.
They're terrified.
To how they see us as, and all the work that we're doing, candidates, voters, reforms, these are like three legs of the same stool. Building a movement for self-government patriotic, ordinary Americans running the show, which is what our experiment is all about.
Hey guys,
I just want Ty and Todd and you, Paul, 30 seconds each to tell people how they can connect with your efforts, how they can support you, and then we'll wrap up there. Why don't we start with you, Ty?
But look, first of all, John and Paul and everybody on your team, thank you so much for putting this together. This has been absolutely awesome. We need this conversation to grow bigger. The way that you can help me on my campaign is you can go to typinkins.com, T-Y-P as in Paul, INKINS.com, and just learn about my platform, contribute to my campaign. But more important than contributing to my campaign, I know that's kind of weird to hear politicians say, more important than giving me money is everybody on this call needs to let somebody that you know that there are 6 independents trying to run to deny either party a majority in the United States Senate. Let people know this. That's way more important than giving me $10, $20, $50. I can pay for my own self to get across the state. But doing that will help us more. I'll take your money, but doing that I think is one of the things that I would like for people to do.
Todd?
Yeah, again, thanks to John and Paul. You guys are doing awesome work here, renewing our democracy and getting us back to America's core values. So thank you. My link I threw up in the chat, Achilles4Idaho.com. I would build on Ty's. I think we got to get the word out, and whether it's me in Idaho or Ty in Mississippi, Brian in South Dakota, Dan in Nebraska. I mean, we got to move the needle on the independents, and this is talking to friends. This is spreading the word, and it's don't be afraid to talk to your Democratic friends about what the independents are doing, or your Republican friends about what the independents are doing, right? Because at our core, we all want the same thing, and those are the conversations that we got to have across America.
Yeah, and real quick, hold the media accountable. If you watch CNN and you watch MSNBC and you watch these ABC or NBC or whatever, ask them why they aren't bringing any independents on. Ask them that. Hold them accountable and force them to bring independent candidates on. And when they say they don't know any independent candidates, type Todd Achilles in the chat. Tell them Ty Pinkins.
Okay.
I'll bring us out.
Okay. Hope is the oxygen of democracy. You got the hope today. You got to feed it. Okay. So right here, right now in the chat are the links. Click on them right now. I'll wait, right? So pop them open in your browser, go over there, click on Todd's website, click on Ty's website. Then we've got the website for Independent Veterans America and my show, where you can hear from a lot more of these folks. But do the thing right now. If you can't donate, sign up for their email list. That way you can stay involved. And, frankly, after you log out, you'll forget, you'll need to feed the dog, whatever. Do the thing right now. And I will also tell you, please support open primaries. John is truly a godfather of this movement, and he's been working away at this for so long. And now the movement is coming together around the vision that he had decades ago. But he has been holding that flame for so long, and he is so trusted and honorable, and he represents our movement. So please support open primaries. They need your support too. And spread the hope. I tell everybody, vigilance is the price of freedom. This is how you pay that vigilance, and take action. Don't just leave here and go, oh, that was great. Do some shit. Do some shit. Get to work. And we can get one of these guys or all these guys in the Senate and change history. So thank you all for being here. And my thanks to all of you, and John especially.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Ty. Thank you, Todd. Thanks you all for joining. Hopefully my computer won't die next time. Have a great one.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right, folks, I hope you enjoyed this extra bonus content. Be sure to subscribe and share and rate on Apple Podcasts and on YouTube, and spread the word about what we're building here at Independent Americans. I will continue to bring you regular episodes. I will continue to bring you quick response pods. It's another way to unite our community, continue to bring light to contrast the heat, and another way to help you stay vigilant, America.
Archipelago, he tells me the left and right are dreams for those without a clue. And when you wake, it's time to grow. And it's not cool to believe in school, but if I can say one thing, I've seen the children of the revolution and the good trouble they can bring. He says the red and blue identity, independent is an attitude. An island in the sea of rhetoric, and I can ride it's time to grow.
Powered by Righteous Media.